as we were discussing in part one of the why does crime occur series of the Sidewalk Incarcerated Workers podcast, we were discussing two of the problems, the cause of crime. One of the factors being social, the other being economic. And we were diving into the understanding of the lack of education, the misproportion of funding, the misproportion of support within the lower class of society, the impoverished class of society. With majority, which would be the minority, versus the two, one on the one side of the train tracks, the other on the other. Now, when we looked at this explanation of crime and we applied it to the other side, we're coming across a stereotype. Would you like to keep explaining the stereotype?
Yeah, yeah, by all means. Um, as I was saying, like when you had, let's say you have one neighborhood or one group on one side of the train tracks, and the other one. One side I was diving into would be the one of color or the one that has the less resources. Let's start with the poor housing. You have someone either in they call the PJs, the projects, or the low income housing, where it has instead of having good or name brand supermarkets or nice basketball courts or after school centers, program centers, or activities. They have none of that because they have none of that, which I believe also is the asset as far as the high crime rate because there's lack of community support. When you don't have support from the community, whether it be like I said, after school programs, town watch or night watches, or just basically where it's the coaches, whether it's counselors, whether it's certain things that have not just the children of the neighborhood, but also activities or activities of certain centers where they have certain programs that's educated towards building the community, that can cause a problem with idle hands when individuals have no guidance. They always look towards some type of influence. So if you don't have these structured activities or programs, then you always or more on a chance of having something negative. And that's what the children and that's what the individuals and communities will gear towards. But on the, like I said, the fair side of the train tracks, where they have these certain programs, um, or the activity centers, or these night watches, or tennis courts, and so on and so forth, you know, then it lessens the risk of crime within the neighborhood because they don't want the negativity to continue to go on. So I believe, as far as the social and environmental factors, and also we made economical factors that plays a key because now you have a stereotype as far as like a lot of people will ask if you get stopped by the police wherever you are, first thing they're gonna ask you is where you from, where you live at. They're gonna ask you for your ID so they can see it yourself. So they'll know the neighborhood. They'll know like, okay, all right, okay, you're from Clarkson Street. I know what goes on in Clarkson Street or that neighborhood. Or you're from Canarsie. I know what goes on there. Compared to okay, you're from Manhattan. Automatically that gives a thought in the individual's head as far as what that individual or that they're looking across, the type of individual that person is. And right then and there, you're you're labeled, you're stereotyped. And I believe that that's something that needs to be rectified. Or, but as a community, there's something that we have to do ourselves within our own community.
So I want to make sure that I'm following, and it's getting very interesting. This same economic and social inequality that is experienced in the projects, low income housing, um, areas and neighborhoods that have less funding and less support, less education. We look at the other side of the train tracks and we say, well, these people have all these things, but some of these people still commit crime. And yes, they may get slapped on the wrist. Yes, they may have the best attorneys in the country and be able to beat their charges, even if guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. But it necessarily, if we applied the same standard that we're looking at from our side of the train track and apply it to their side of the train track, can we say that it would stop crime?
I would, in theory, I would say yes, but the way you presented it, but I believe there will probably be more that would be need to be done. Um, Let me explain. If we apply the same, as far as the same methods, um, it will stop with the punishment part to where a crime was committed, and then now the punishment comes in to where we'll say, okay, if we like, and this is if we apply the same as far as the methods as you stated, as far as the one side of tracks to the other side of tracks, the bad side of tracks. That's us. I would say it would stop with punishment to where we would say, okay, let's give him a second chance, and then we will leave it there. That's how they do on the I said the betterment of the side of the tracks because they know because they have the resources and the aftercare so forth. And this point where I said more needs to be done is because I would say we need to do a lot more with the aftercare. When I mean the aftercare, that means where I would say instead of saying, okay, Raheem committed a crime. The crime was he stole something from a store because he didn't have anything to eat, and so on and so forth. Use that example. So they go in front of the judge, they explain the situation, they say, okay, well, this man has good grades in school, a star in his basketball team, so on and so forth. But his mother works long hours and paying the bills, so sometimes he has to go to bed hungry. He was definitely hungry. So, okay, let's give this young man another chance. Let's not send him to the detention center, and let's give this another man a chance. Only community work. Boom! It would stop there. That's the method that works within the higher, I would say, the higher neighborhoods, the higher communities, the better off communities. Now, where I say that we will need more work, if we apply the same factors that we would have to know not only know as far as why Raheem committed the crime, but we will also have to make sure that it would not happen again. Meaning that okay, his mother works long hours. Let's see if we can get her in certain programs that will entitle her certain benefits as far as food benefits where she doesn't have to pay. She doesn't have to pay.
Hmm.
Let's also find out after school programs that can help Raheem develop skills, depending on what the individual's age, for employment, junior employment. At 14 years old, we can get a note from his mother to grant him, or 16, 14 years old, to be able to work so many hours. That's more money for them, so they can afford certain things that they need. Also, let's get Raheem in a program to where he can utilize some of the skills or find out what skills that he has where he can utilize, you know, for the betterment of himself to become successful once he reaches a certain age. Or if he's good at basketball, let's get him in some other outside after school programs academic programs that can help him learn as far as competitiveness, working together as a team member, certain tasks, and so on and so forth. So you follow me so far? I would believe that
Yeah.
this will have to be implemented in order for the idea of the same methods would for it to work and be successful.
So I want to kind of run with your idea and see if this can be something feasible as a theory to solve crime. On a larger scale, not just on our side of the tracks, but also their side of the tracks. So as we both know, um, the criminal justice system is a business.
Yes.
It was basically slavery turned into the penal system, and then the penal system turned into a business, just as slavery was a business, and money is being made. It makes the people who are in these positions of power richer by the day. The more people are locked up, the more prisons are full, the more prisons have to be built, and the more funding gets put into the system, which is an everlasting cycle. So, that being said, there was a company, and it's still around today, named ALEC, the American Legislation Executive Committee. And this company creates fill in the blank bills for representatives of the House and senators, governors, things of that nature to go and get this passed. All they have to do is fill out the name of their state and go get the votes and get it passed. And Alex works in cooperation with big businesses, big corporations, and politicians all in one committee. So they vote on things they want to be done for the sake of people who have money in order to get certain laws passed to protect their own money. So to keep it short, we as the other side of the train tracks, which is primarily affected by criminality and crime, because not only are, I would say, we the victims of the monopoly scheme of businesses and corporations getting away with doing crimes but being so rich that they don't get punished for it. And then also when we decide, hey, look, I'm going to take matters into my own hands, we're penalized and sent to prison for decades of time, life sentences, that sort of nature. Our primary focus should be, well, how do we solve this problem? And the solution is something that you touched on, and I want to expand on. Just as the criminal justice system was turned into a business, punishment was monopolized and was actually profited upon, we can turn the rehabilitation aspect of prison into a business so that businesses, corporations, and people are not only interested in locking people up, but then are interested in taking that second step, which is how do we help the people who are locked up not get locked up again?
I'm definitely in agreement with you and I follow you. Because some of these, like I said, if we're able as a community able to solidify and create and build a foundation of some of these after school programs or educational programs for the youth or for the single mothers or single fathers or one parent homes to where and also be in connection with the school system to where the troubled teens or troubled youth or can have a way to vent or find their path in life. not only as far as the academics or athletics, but just as far as to get to know who they are. I believe some of these programs can be funded or grant by grants, from the state, these are the same programs, like you said, that some of these people from the judicial system and prison system, they get money from the states, to run these certain programs or make these certain decisions that they necessarily do. But as a community, I believe we that can be established to where it can be profitable, to where the funds go right back into each other and into the community to help build it, to where it'll be more similarities between the different side of the tracks instead of differences, and that way it won't be labeled or any type of stereotypical narrative, on either side.
Yeah, I like where you're going because as I heard from a previously incarcerated activist on a documentary called The 13th, Netflix original. If you haven't watched it, I recommend it all the way around. It's a really good documentary on how the prison system was created. The 13th Amendment was created to free us, but it really enslaved us by penalizing crime, and essentially being born black then became a crime, if that makes sense, all in one sentence. So the brother was on there, and he actually said in his own words, I don't want to be quoted for misquoting him, but in my words of what he said, my interpretation of it, if we want justice and we want to advocate for ourselves and we want changes, we have to be the solution. We have to come up with these solutions because
Yeah.
these problems have been ever existing, and people like the sociologists and the psychologists and politicians always believe they have the solution to our problems. And these people have never spent a day in prison. They've
Yeah.
never spent a day in low-income housing. They've never grown up in a house with one mother and two or three siblings, and then mom's not home half the time, so you have to take care of your brothers and sisters. These people don't understand this. That being said, we can't expect someone to understand our struggle and fix our problems. We have to be willing to solve them for ourselves.
I'm in agreement with you, and it's not just going to be one individual, one family, or one incident. I believe it takes communities. I mean, it takes um, small black business owned has to be involved. Like I said, the school system has to be involved. Um, Parents, motivated teens and
You have
children,
1 minute
family
left.
members need to play a certain part and role, to help this. I wouldn't say dream, but this vision survive. Not only be created, but established, but survive.
Yeah, so I appreciate your time this week. We got a part one and part two episode. I hope everybody can actually see where we're going with this because this can be manifested into reality, and I believe that it will be manifested into reality once we start understanding. Hey, look, we can go back into these prisons and change them if we invest our time and effort into them, and we can make money off of it. We just
Yep.
have to put our minds together. So I appreciate it. Tune in for next episode. We'll have one soon.
Definitely looking forward to it.
Thank you for using Securus. Goodbye.